What's going on, Army members? We're at the Kamp Kenan Army, and today we're going to answer the remainder of the May questions from our Patreon supporters here on the Army channel. Tom is here. Tom has the questions. He's going to read them out. Hopefully I have answers. If I don't have an answer, I'm not going to fake it. You might have to Google it.
Does it make you nervous, not knowing what's coming? You never know.
I don't mind. The whole thing of not knowing is actually fun. A lot of people think I want to just talk and talk and talk, which I do. But like, you know, I don't mind being a student, and I consider myself a student. Here's Socrates. See, I'm a student of Socrates. And basically that means always be a student and always be learning. This way life gets more and more interesting. So careful there, Socks. I hate when he slides down and hits his face on the rock. Let's talk about the first question now as I go in here.
The first question comes from our friend Rainey Parker.
Ah, Rainey Parker. I know Rainey. She joins up on our, she's always hanging out when we do our live chats for Patreon. It's a really fun, intimate chat that you guys can do if you're a Patreon supporter. So go for it. What do we got?
We met her super briefly in Arizona.
We did meet her very briefly.
What are your thoughts on the use of essential oils for reptiles? Any types that should be avoided, i.e. tree oils, citrus oils, mint, etc.
Okay, I don't know. I would stay away from like mint and eucalyptus and citrus and things like that. To be perfectly honest, I don't use any essential oils on my animals. Why? I don't think they're getting essential oils other than anything they are rubbing against or their dietary needs. If you're providing a healthy diet, a good habitat, they don't need any other, you know, I don't turtle wax my tortoises, you know, I let them be as dull as they want, and that's it. You know, their shells get dull. I just treat them like the wild animals they are that are in my care in captivity. So I really don't know, Rainey. I would shy away from that. I have used coconut oil, and I've used it in case you get some superficial, sometimes you get a powdery fungus on the tortoises. So I'll take a coconut oil and I'll wipe that on. It's all natural. It doesn't have a harsh smell, no mint or anything that I think would probably irritate the animal. So I just rub it on, and that helps me with a mild topical fungus that you get from time to time down here. All right, there you go.
Very good.
Hey, there's Darwin coming over to say hello. Yeah. What else we got? Let's see. We'll move along for each question.
Next one comes from Chuck Johnson.
Okay, Chuck.
And we've sort of touched upon this before, but it's a good story. Do you have any yellowfoot tortoises? If so, why have we not seen them? If not, how come you do not?
All right, here we go. So I used to have a group of yellowfoot tortoises, and they lived back where my buddy Andy's cherry heads are. Let's walk over there. They lived back there for many years, and I got eggs, but I could never incubate the eggs. I could never bring them to full term. I've had some babies, but the babies were never fully formed, and they weren't hardy. So basically what I did was I relinquished the group. I was not having luck with them. That's a big thing for me. When I keep animals here, okay, I try and keep animals that do well. Here are the redfoots, for example. They do well. They are hardy. I can breed them easily. With the YouTube channels, I'm really trying to divide my time between being a reptile keeper and being a communicator for these animals. We're in the elongated tortoise enclosure. There you see one right there, just sunbathing. They love to sunbathe through this dappled light that comes through. They're more of a fully jungle or forest animal. Here are the cherry head. This is where I used to keep the yellowfoots. So you know what, they just didn't do well for me as far as breeding. All other aspects of their care was fine. They enjoyed the weather, they enjoyed the enclosure. They're another forest species, like I mentioned about the elongated. Just couldn't get them to hatch, and so I figured, you know what, if these animals are here, they're not breeding, they're not reproducing, it's not going well for me. So like I said, they went on to another home.
Is it a sign of something could be off?
No, I don't know. It could be a sign that I just don't incubate them the right way. It could potentially have been dietary. However, I would shy away from that. I think it was more my incubation methods. I have many different tortoise species I'm trying to incubate in only a few incubators, so it could be just some kind of diapause that I wasn't figuring out, because for example, good buddy Fred Grunwald, he's able to produce the yellowfoots without any issues. He does certain things like the humidity requirements. Things are a little bit different, and the way he incubates are a little bit different. I tried to do that, but with my incubators it didn't work as well, and so I figured, you know what, let's get them somewhere where somebody can be more dedicated. I keep a large group of different species, and to be perfectly honest, I want things that are easy. That's the truth. I just want it nice and easy, because if it's easy for me, they're going to be more benefiting from the lack of stress that I have. So it's basically that. I wanted them to go somewhere where somebody really knew what they were doing with them. Next
question. This one's from Jody. Jody says, I've recently acquired an adult male Eastern Hermann's tortoise as a rescue. He is mildly underweight, but otherwise appears healthy. No respiratory infection, shell rot, etc. What is the best way to go about improving his body condition safely?
Okay, so the best way to do it would be feeding him on a normal schedule, feeding him the right kinds of food. So many people want to, oh my God, we got to get this animal up to weight quickly. You don't want to power feed an animal, because that's not healthy. You want to give the animal the proper amount of food. Usually, in that case, I would look at how big the animal is. Again, it's the midday. We have a little Hermann's tortoise right here poking out of the cave. Usually what you want to do is you want to feed them the proper diet that's very varied. Feed them as much food as they are big. That's a good rule of thumb. And then I would feed them a little bit of that every day, or if you're going to feed them the same amount of food they are big, I would feed them every other day. If you don't like feeding every other day, half that food intake and then put it every day. And the reason I say don't go crazy, now if the animal's severely underweight or it's dehydrated or something like that, it may need subcutaneous fluid injections. At that point, you better bring it to a vet. You might have to give it something called critical care, which helps boost their digestive system, because we got to remember that tortoises are hindgut fermenters. That means they aren't really starving until their entire alimentary canal is empty. And if it gets empty, if you're not using a muscle, what happens? It shuts down. So you want to not, if this animal is severely underweight or there's too much pathogens in its system, you don't want to shock it by adding too much food, because what happens? It hasn't been working, the digestive system, they could then potentially get an impaction. So a little bit of food, bring it up, get the appetite going again, get the weight going again, do a fecal exam with your vet if you don't have your own microscope and know what you're looking for, and then you can adjust from there. If you have to give it some kind of medication for worms, we talked about that not too long ago on the main channel. But you're going to want to do those things, and of course consulting a very smart herp vet. All right? I think I'll leave it at that. I think that answers your question.
Yeah.
What else do we got here, Tom?
Okay, next one comes from, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing this correctly. It's Safe, possibly Sayf, S-A-Y-F. Anyway, they ask, hi Kenan, my Horsfield tortoise went missing. I've searched everywhere and I still can't find him. Do you have any suggestions? Here in Chicago, there's very little chance for him to survive, and I am devastated by this fact.
Oh man, listen, I'll tell you what, I've had tortoises escape. It's just a fact of life keeping animals. I actually had, we were talking about yellowfoots earlier, I had a yellowfoot tortoise disappear. Okay, the main gates were left open. It got out of its enclosure, disappeared. It was over a year, right? My neighbors called me up and they go, hey, we just found this huge tortoise in the vacant lot. And sure enough, the animal didn't go very far. Very funny, it survived our winter, it did well. This is a tropical species of tortoise. Now we're talking about the Horsfield's tortoise, which is also the Russian tortoise, which is a misnomer, which means that it isn't named properly because it's never really found in Russia. Where it's found is in Pakistan and Afghanistan in the high steppes, so it can get some cool temperatures, some cold weather, right? The reason they call it the Russian tortoise because a lot of when the Russians were in Afghanistan, a lot of those soldiers returned home with little pets for their children, and thus the Russian tortoise name was given. Oh, and there you go. And they're very funny little tortoises. This one here is going to a new home because, again, I don't keep animals that I can't care for in the long term at my place. I also don't like to take Russian tortoises to keep a group of them. I'd love to be able to breed them, but they don't do very well down here in Florida. It's very humid, and also it's a species that needs to hibernate in order to survive and to breed. So that's kind of a concern. This is a little gal, we can tell. So she's going off to a new home. I have her in here just for the time being because space is getting limited, and I don't want to mix this tortoise with any of the tortoises that I keep here because there's the potential, since it's wild caught, to spread a little germs and things that I don't want my other tortoises getting. So it stays right in here. And this tortoise here, what I would do as far as look under bushes, look under weeds, think like a turtle. In the morning, get up early, because tortoises get up early. When it's early, they come out, they wait for the sun, they lay on a rock, they lay in the bright sun, especially the species, raise their body temperature, move around for a little bit, but when it gets too warm during the day, they seek shelter. Then again, they'll come out at dusk. So I would just exhaust all options in your backyard. They also can dig and burrow. So if we got a cold spell the night before or something like that, they would have gone down. So look next to plants, different plants in the mulch, because they will burrow down in it. That would be my best bet for you, is to just look everywhere, including places you would not expect turtles. And if you've been following the main channel, you know we had the saga of the fly river turtle, which is just behind me in Slinky's enclosure. I'm not taking any more chances with those guys. They're in there. What are you talking about, Slinky? You getting jealous? Slinky's jealous because we're not hanging out with him. There he is. I'm going to shut this door so you can see Slinky better. What's the next question? Maybe we can talk about it while in with Slinky if it pertains.
The final question.
Yeah, final question.
From Ron Parker.
Ron Parker.
Yeah, so Ron said, "Hi Kenan, I was just wondering if you've ever worked with pancake tortoises before, and if you ever plan on working with them in the future."
Well, I've never kept pancake tortoises, but I did do a lot of triage and administering of medications to them, because we're going with slinks. Because well, do you want to go with slinks, Tommy?
I'm good with it. Let's do it.
All right, we're going to do it. Do it for the fans. So anyway, I worked with them, but I never kept them. And the reason being is if, again, like the Russian tortoise, if I were to keep that animal, they would have to, hey, you tripoding. Are you tripoding, you handsome guy? Look at this, guys, everyone. Look at him. My big baby. He's a big boy. Oh, you're going to get my shirt dirty, buddy. Come on. Oh, go over here, you little loon. There's big slinks making me dirty. Anyway, to answer that question, let me lock this up nice and good because he can escape. The question that was asked is if I worked with him. So, halfway answering it, I told you I did. We got a large group of them that were illegally imported, and the TSA was doing some work on them not far from me at a holding facility, and I was one of the folks that was weighing them, also giving them injections, basically helping out the veterinarians that were there. They don't do well outdoors. They're specialized in that they like rock crevices and so on. That's not to say down the road at our new sanctuary that we may not do something inside the greenhouse that we can work and control the environment a little bit better, and therefore create a more habitable place for them to live down in South Florida. Otherwise, you got to keep them indoors. Hey, look, it's Guapo and Lola, the two lovebirds. We should be getting eggs out of Lola here pretty soon. So exciting. Lizards abroad. That was it. That was the last question. I answered it. You folks wrote them down. We answered them. You're on the Kamp Kenan Army channel. Don't forget to subscribe if you like what you're seeing here. We're going to post on both channels. You know why? We're nuts. We don't have enough work to do. We're going to keep going. That's Tom. You hear him laughing? Anyway, we hope you enjoy the channels. We don't mind working for you guys. Thank you for the support on Patreon. Go to patreon.com/KampKenan. Help us out with what you can.
Keep those questions coming, too. We'll answer them.
That's right. Keep the questions coming. They'll all get answered somewhere. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Hit subscribe. Go on over to the main channel, Kamp Kenan, with a K, and subscribe to that as well for more interesting reptile videos.